Welcome to this special post-Independence Day, post-inauguration broadcast of Second Take. I would have done it by myself, but again, I do need a second take from Irene-Mari Van der Walt, journalist with Republican. Thank you for joining us, Irene. How are you?
I am alive. The rain hasn't washed me away this week,
Yes.
so survived that.
My goodness, the rain, hey?
The rain.
Have you ever experienced the rain in such a manner?
Not in Namibia, I don't think. Definitely when I was young, living in South Africa, yes.
Yeah, all right.
But I am from Cape Town, so there it rains quite bad.
Yes.
But definitely not in
Definitely
Namibia.
not.
I was telling someone who works with us here at NMH this morning that I lived in Swakopmund for 10 years and it rained, I think, 3 or 4 times.
3 or 4 times. But just last week, we were seeing people in canoes. That's just how hectic the rain has been. However, in Africa, we always consider the rain a blessing. And perhaps the rain can be considered a blessing considering the new era that Namibia is currently entering. Namibia just celebrated 35 years of independence. Happy Independence Day again, Namibia. I know it was on Friday and today's Sunday, but we are absolutely stoked, happy, proud, honored to be a part of this moment. And of course, the first female president in Namibia has been inaugurated, Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah. It has happened. Mm-hmm. But we're going to track back because we want to give a full second take, of the last couple of years leading up to where we are now. So obviously, no one could have predicted how things went politically and socially in Namibia. One time we've got an excellent statesman in Dr. Hage G. Geingob, and then we wake up in February and Dr. Hage G. Geingob has passed away. And we weren't ready to be able to handle losing a sitting president. Mm-hmm. Fortunately, the Zambians came along and assisted us in that funeral. Of course, a year later, Dr. Sam Shafishuna Nujoma also passes away. And by that time, I think we were pretty set and we kind of knew how to handle things, and it went as smoothly as could go. And in that process, Dr. Nangolo Mbumba was the president, taking over and finishing Dr. Hage G. Geingob's tenure, which I believe he did quite well. But we're going to get into all the details just now. I
am very, very sad to see Mbumba go. Because I remember the first time that I never saw him, I never for some reason saw him as VP or anything. The first time I saw him in person was at the opening of the legal year, right after Dr. Geingob's passing, I believe less than a week or something.
Wow.
And he walked in and I'd heard all these things, and I remember this very clearly, we wrote a story in Republican where people who knew him personally spoke about him, and they spoke of him as this very, this person of high integrity, this very kind person, someone who you can trust, someone who you can count on. And that has stayed with me. And that first time that I saw him, we were all very on edge because we're opening the legal year.
Yes.
And our president has just passed on. Yeah. And everyone was on edge and everyone was nervous. And the next moment he walks in and the entire room is calm. Yes. There's like a calmness that washed over me. And that's something that I'll always remember about him. And I think that makes him, to me, even though his tenure was very short, or his tenure was incredibly short, I think he's the president that's going to stay with me for very long. Because of that feeling of calm. It is very true that people won't always remember your name, or they won't always remember
how you made them
feel.
Yes,
and he brought a calmness to the country, I think, when we most needed it.
I have to agree. I am certainly inclined to do so. To me, it was obviously a little difficult sitting with the idea of this transitional president, and you are like, okay, what are his real responsibilities going to be? Are you finishing off Dr. Hage G. Geingob's bucket list, so to speak? Is that the entire structure of what you're going to be providing to the nation in the nature of service? Yeah. But I cannot take away the sheer immense responsibility of burying 2 great men, 2 great presidents, a sitting president and the founding father of the Namibian nation, and doing it in such a manner. To me, that was my moment. I looked at him throughout that process and I said, that is my president. He has held the fort, and trust me, Namibia, we get a lot of credit for peaceful transition, and we absolutely deserve it. But it's not something we can take for granted. It's not to say they aren't dissenting voices when it comes to the general structure of how the nation is ruled. And thus, him being a figure that people allowed to bring that wave of calmness was something that was it stood out for me as well. So in Republican and Namibian Sun, there were some ratings that came through, and this was of the politicians, and the ratings were essentially out of 10. If I am not mistaken, that is correct. So this is the Cabinet Scorecard 2024 to 2025. It's based on desk research involving assessments by governance experts, political analysts and commentators, academics and policy researchers on the performance of each official who served the Namibian cabinet over the past 12 months. So this is what it says about His Excellency Nangolo Mbumba as acting president. Mbumba's job was less about charting new waters and more about keeping the Namibian ship steady on its existing course. I certainly, I can't sit with the word acting president. For me, I'm going to sit with president.
In my heart, he's a president.
Definitely.
And I think I realized it again at Dr. Sam Nuyoma's memorial funeral at Heroes Acre. This was the first and I think only time that I will ever have to photograph Nangolo Mbumba. And I remember looking at these photos and just, after I'd taken them, and just thinking, that's my president. That's my guy. I in that moment, I was so sad that he was not on the ballot last year, because I 100% would have voted for him.
All right.
Irrespective of party, irrespective of whatever, I would have voted for him, because that's, in my heart, that's my president. He's a president.
He's a president. All right. Okay. So, of course, tasked with executing the policies and programs set in motion by his late boss, he had neither the time nor the political runway to launch a fresh development agenda, and that's fair. And so the rating for Nangolo Mbumba was 6 out of 10. I would call that fair. To a point. So fair because, again, you really can't implement any development agendas. There's not much leg room with regards to what you can do politically, which I have to respect. But again, the reason I personally will bump it just above 6 is, tell me a larger responsibility ceremonially than burying Dr. Hage Geingob and Dr. Sam Nujoma smoothly without a single hiccup. And so for me, I would bump him up, only because those are huge undertakings. I'm sure some presidents around the world, if you're told that you'd be president for 4 years, and just have, as much work as possible, or would you rather do 2 years and bury 2 great men? A lot of people would rather say, I'm gonna do the 4 years, because it's a task. And so to me, for those people who felt there wasn't legitimacy to his position, for me, that certainly bumped him up. Please tell us about Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah's rating, Her Excellency.
Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah, by the time you watch this, the president of Namibia, got a 4. That apparently because, allegedly, according to the author, I shall say, according to the author, she basically, when she got elected as vice president of the SWAPO party, she became more concerned with the party's affairs than with the country's affairs. And, as the vice president of a country, you need to be concerned with the country.
But again, you're vice president. You know what I mean? I understand, of course, and yes, she was vice president for a while, and she would have had a more clearly defined mandate. But I'm just, speaking on the other side here, just to color our debate. She did have the task of an election. She did have the task of not just becoming president, becoming the first female president. And thus, she did have to galvanize SWAPO behind her, because there was some factionality present in how things transpired. So for me, I would understand that. And also, she performed better than SWAPO. She did. Like the presidential vote was exceeded what SWAPO had managed to do with regards to those votes to their votes at the elections, and thus I feel that as much as it seemed that she was just mostly devoted to SWAPO, the benefits, or was that people still saw her as someone who would be fit to be the first female president of Namibia?
I do, in some capacity, not to take away from Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah as the president of Namibia, I do, in some capacity, take issue with us hammering that she's the first female president. I think I was talking with somebody about this in a sports capacity. I'm a huge Formula One fan. I was very afraid of what men would think of me being interested in very male-dominated sport. And as such, I kept it quiet for a long time. Because I'd heard online that a lot of women were, being looked after and being looked at a certain way by other men in the space. And I got none of that in Namibia. And I think we have figures like Dr. Sam Nujoma to thank for that.
Yes.
He was very set on creating equality. Now,
he's the one who told her to run for president as well.
Our fifth president, in my mind, because I do count Dr. Nangolo Mbumba.
As you should.
Our fifth president is a woman. Does that speak to equality? Maybe not 50-50 equality, but I think we live in an atmosphere, especially politically, that is very much focused on giving women equal opportunity. Now, you can talk about, there was a report, I believe, 2 years ago about women in parliament facing sexual harassment and so on and so forth. You can talk about, certain parliamentarians telling a female parliamentarian to pull down her pants. You can talk about that, but I think our political environment is so set on creating equality as far as we can in parliament.
Now, my counter argument to that would be, if someone breaks a glass ceiling, should we not, honor that fact? Because the messaging is important to women, not necessarily who are politicians, but to young girls, to make sure that the idea of her being the first woman president is captured well for society. Why? Because we did it for the others. Dr. Sam Nujoma was the founding president, and we kept that for him. It was founding. He didn't found the country alone. Right, he had a strong brotherhood, including Toivo, a lot of iconic figures. But that was his title because of the manner in which he played his role. And so I do understand that we can't hammer it on that, because it almost seems like she became president because she's a woman. No, she became president because she's qualified and because she campaigned well, right? Campaigned so well, we were worried if she was even, being vice president more than she was, campaigning within SWAPO. And so she's broken the glass ceiling, and I think it's a moment that people want to just freeze in time, with Madame Johnson from Liberia. So she's the second female president in Africa, and it's more for historical relevance as well, without a doubt. And I think it's also something that she's embraced, and it was an intentional a move for her to run for president. Dr. Sam Nujoma is the one who actually told her to run for president. And thus, I do understand that we are trying to create equality and equity. And I would think it's fair to say that we're at times better than some of our neighbors. But to try and hold on to this moment, hold on to this idea of the first female president, I think I can get behind that. Of course, after this weekend, she's just the president.
That is also my big fear, is that we will consider her more a woman than a president. That's something that I'm very afraid of, for the sake that not only can she, if she were to not make targets, if something were to go wrong, it's something she can hide behind to say, oh, I'm a woman. And that does nothing for other women. If anything, it damages the reputation of women. If someone were to mess up and say, oh, it's because I'm a woman, that ends up reflecting on women in general, that you can't do something right because you are a woman, So I'm afraid that we might hand an opportunity for her to, if she weren't to be not the greatest president, I have full hope and full trust that she will be at least a decent president. It remains to be seen whether she will be a good president. But I'm afraid that we would create an opportunity for her to hide behind, or for the party to hide behind, if things go wrong.
I hear you. I do think, however, the people who would be most likely to bring on such an idea would probably be, misogynists and folks who generally don't respect women, because it's not her first role, and she has made mistakes in the past, and she is a diplomat, and from what I can tell, for the most part, she's very bent on accountability, and thus I do expect her to conduct herself as a president without hiding behind that, because it would never suffice as an excuse. You know what I mean? Because once you're voted in, we voted you in because of your abilities, because of what you believe you can do for the country. So I know it would be very detrimental if she ever gave the messaging of, I'm the first woman. However, it's also not to ignore the fact that there's a chance that she may face specific challenges that the other presidents wouldn't have faced because she's a woman. The certain level of respect to this, and I say this only because as much as we are striving for an equal and equitable society, we're just not there yet. And for the most part, the messaging from the way men speak and patriarchy and all of this stuff is that if they see anything, they're going to be the ones to rush and say, it's because she's a woman, we should have rather had a man. And thus, I think, ultimately, I agree with you that the door should be closed.
Yeah.
That's the whole idea.
She's a president.
She's the president now, we move on from there.
She's a president who happens to be a woman. She's a president as much as Dr. Nangolo Mbumba, as much as Hage Geingob. Hage Geingob happened to be of a certain tribe, happened to be of a certain gender, had to be of a certain political orientation, all the same as Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah.
Yes.
Hage happened to be Dr. Hage Geingob, let me show respect.
Yes.
Dr. Geingob happened to be a man.
Yes.
Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah
happens to be a woman. And thus I think people need to give her a fair opportunity to see how impactful she can be. I'm certainly looking forward to it. Do you think that she is going to champion bills and a way of governing that does prop up women, which, by the way, to me is how things are supposed to happen. If you can't say equal, it means that someone needs to be propped up. And of course, you're going to say, don't ignore the boy. Don't ignore the boy child. Don't ignore the boy child. Are you satisfied? Fine. So I think she's going to prop up women. I hope she would prop up women in specific areas, because the representation isn't, it's still not as potent as it could be. It's not where it should be. Of course, youngest parliamentarian, okay, a girl. And it's been three ladies. Remember it was Patience Masua, Emma Theophilus. Now we've got a 22-year-old, and she got sworn in last week, Thursday as well. So again, the direction is going that way. But some women may be asking more of her because she's a woman, and they would probably have the right to. So women in sports, all right. So hockey fairly well taken care of. Football not so much all the time. The same stadiums that everyone complains about are the same stadiums that the women have to play at, and thus I hope personally that she does take a defined stance with regards to that. But she is everyone's president. She's your president. She's my president, and thus it's also completely fair for me to be like, what about the boy child? But I want to be able to say what about the boy child, because I want to know that she's taking care of the girl child.
As backwards as this is going to sound, to follow my logic
here. We're going to try.
I hope she doesn't become a token for women.
No, a token certainly
I
not.
hope she doesn't become the spokesperson for women. I hope she doesn't prop up women. I hope she doesn't become pro-women. I hope that she's a president just like every other president. Like you said, she's everybody's president. I hope that she takes, yes, there are certain women's issues. There are issues that are inherently women's issues. Domestic violence disproportionately affects women by a country mile.
Financial equality.
Exactly.
Yes.
Socioeconomic equality, social equality. But I would hope that she would take it up as an issue of social equality 100%. And not an issue of women.
The messaging certainly can't be, I'm doing this because, but I do think a certain level of intention, which I'm not saying hasn't been there with the previous presidents, but I do feel like there has to be a certain level of intention if we are saying that there are definitely spaces where women definitely, need some empowerment.
Yeah.
But again, like I was saying, she's everybody's president, and that's really her calling card. And it's not just about the social issues. We need to know what you're doing with our natural resources. We need to know where this direction is going. We need to know how you're going to handle the USA. Namibia is on the side of Palestine. We made ourselves party to South Africa's case. We know for a fact the reason Donald Trump is just going all the way down in such a sporadic and haphazard way on South Africa is between Israel and Palestine. It stems from that, and I hope she's prepared for that, because that's what I also need. I need a leader with presence. I need a leader who's going to be able to say no when it's not popular to say no, and say yes when it's needed to say yes. Any final words?
I mean, I'm hopeful. That's all I can say. I have in the past year or so, I will say I've felt very dejected in what the future of this country can be, but I hope that it won't be that. I hope that we will get a new cabinet, a new parliament, new president, that will make Namibia what it can be, because it can be an absolutely wonderful country. I have some close friends in South Africa, some family in South Africa, and speaking to them on issues like electricity, like water provision, like local governance, I am incredibly proud to be a Namibian.
Yes.
And I'm incredibly proud to be a Namibian first, no matter what my place of birth might tell you.
Yes.
I'm a Namibian first. And I hope that after 5 years we can sit here and we can be proud of what figures like Netumbo Nandi-Ndaitwah has done.
So there you have it, Your Excellency, from Irene-Mari Van der Walt and Ashwyn Mberi at Second Take. All we have on the table for you is hope. And we certainly hope you can fill that table with tangible progress. Good night.
For over 2 decades, the Namibia Institute of Pathology Limited, NIP, has been at the forefront of delivering accessible and affordable medical laboratory services. Established in the year 2000, this public enterprise plays a vital role in strengthening Namibia's healthcare system. As a commercial public enterprise under the Public Enterprises Governance Act, our mission is to serve both the public and private healthcare sectors with innovative laboratory services that focus on saving lives every day. Our revenue is generated through medical laboratory services, with the public sector as our largest market through our partnership with the Ministry of Health and Social Services. At NIP, our vision is to be a trusted, customer-centric, and innovative medical laboratory service provider of choice. Our mission is to provide reliable, accessible, and innovative medical laboratory services responsive to our customer needs, guided by our values: innovation, accountability, commitment, teamwork, fairness, accessible, integrity, and respect. We operate 37 laboratories nationwide, serving all 14 regions of Namibia. 14 of our laboratories are internationally accredited under ISO 15189, reinforcing our commitment to global quality standards. We have successfully transitioned 10 of these laboratories to the recent ISO 15189 2022 standard. With our laboratory footprint, we ensure seamless access to routine diagnostic tests. Pathology is at the heart of healthcare. Studies show that 70% of medical decisions rely on laboratory results. The Namibia Institute of Pathology Limited empowers doctors with critical insights, ensuring accurate and timely diagnosis for effective treatment for our people. Our business model is built on understanding customer needs and delivering tailored solutions through innovation, technology, and expertise to ensure a healthy nation. Namibia Institute of Pathology Limited, where commitment matters and quality prevails.